This is Clara. A bright, determined young woman chasing her dreams with everything she has, but carrying a heavy burden. Life hasn't been easy. Mortgage payments are a weight she can barely lift. 2 exhausting jobs keep her moving, but she's still barely keeping her head above water. There she stands, gripping a folder filled with job applications. Her eyes show weariness, but there's still a flicker of hope. Today, she believes, could be different. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. She hastened to meet up the train. Sound of a train pulling away. Papers scatter as Clara drops her folder while running. When life keeps piling on challenges, even a small mishap can feel like the final straw. Frustration hit her like a wave as she knelt to gather the papers. A shadow falls over her, a hand reaching down. A calm, friendly voice speaks. "Need a hand? Looks like the train wasn't on your side today." She looks up at a well-dressed man, his smile disarming. She accepts the help, their fingers brushing as he hands her the papers. "Thank you," she breathes. "Guess I wasn't fast enough today." "Happens to the best of us," he replies with a grin. "Do you live around here?" Kindness. Timing. A stranger with a charming smile and a helpful hand. But was he just a stranger? Coincidence can feel like destiny. Each day, he was there. Each day, her guard lowered just a little more. And each day, the web grew tighter. He listened as she spoke about her struggles. Mortgage payments that felt like chains. Exhaustion that never seemed to end. One day, with her voice weary and eyes tired, she said, "I feel like I'm drowning. No matter how hard I work, it's never enough." He listened closely, his expression soft, yet somewhere behind his smile, something calculated. "You deserve better," he said. "Someone like you shouldn't have to fight so hard. Maybe I can help." Help. A simple word, filled with promise. But some promises are dangerous. He pulls out a business card, offering it with confidence. "I know people. I could get you something better. Let's talk soon." Clara hesitates, her fingers brushing against the card. Hope flickers in her tired eyes. Clara sits alone in her kitchen, the business card in her hand. Her thoughts swirl in the silence. What would you do? A stranger's kindness. A lifeline when life feels like it's crushing you. Would you trust it? Would you wonder, why me? Grooming never begins with cruelty. It begins with kindness. Attention. Trust. But trust can be dangerous when it's placed in the wrong hands. Clara sits at her modest kitchen table, her eyes scanning a job offer letter. Her hands tremble slightly with excitement. For the first time in what felt like forever, Clara could finally breathe. A new job. Better pay. Fewer hours. A future that didn't feel like a race against time. Her lips curved into a rare, genuine smile as she imagined what life might look like without the crushing weight of debt. But even dreams can carry hidden costs. Clara steps in, her eyes wide, taking in the modern space. A receptionist greets her warmly. Justine appears, polished and confident, guiding her inside with a hand on her shoulder. Justine delivered on his promise. A dream job. A beautiful office. Respect. Stability. He became more than a benefactor. He became a guide. A mentor. A friend. But how far can you trust someone who offers you the world so easily? Gratitude has a way of blinding us. The deeper her success, the stronger her loyalty grew. And Justine knew exactly how to cultivate that loyalty. In a quiet moment, they sat together, a glass raised between them. "Hey, race to a fresh start," he toasted, his voice smooth as silk. Clara smiled, clinking her glass, her heart lighter than it had been in years. Gratitude can silence the questions we should ask. Walking beside Justine in a dimly lit lounge. Laughter mingles with the sound of clinking glasses. She is introduced to well-dressed professionals, their smiles warm, their words polished. What would you do if someone offered you everything you ever wanted? Would you feel lucky? Would you trust them? Or would you wonder, why me? Justine leans in, his voice low, his eyes locked on Clara's. "You should join us tomorrow night. A little celebration. You've earned it. Clara hesitated, but only for a moment. I insist, Justine added, his smile unwavering. The strings of trust had been carefully woven. Now, they were tightening. Clara smiled, nodding, her heart light with the illusion of safety. Kindness can be a mask. Generosity, a lure. Clara grips Justine's business card, her fingers tightening around it. Have you ever questioned someone's motives after they seemed too good to be true? What did your instincts tell you? The beat of the music pulses through the scene. Bright, swirling lights flash as laughter and conversation fill the air. Clara enters, her eyes wide with awe, her lips curving into a smile of excitement. She is dressed in a simple but elegant dress, her usual worries momentarily forgotten. That night felt like a dream. A celebration of success. A reward for her hard work. Clara steps inside, Justine guiding her with a gentle touch on her back. The club is alive with energy, people dancing, toasting, and sharing smiles under a canopy of dazzling lights. But not every smile hides good intentions. Justine's personal assistant, lingering by the bar, watching the room with careful intent. The night began with laughter. Small talk. Drinks that sparkled like promises. Clara and Justine sit together in a booth, toasting her success. Justine's charm radiates as he leans in, his words smooth and comforting. To new beginnings, Clara. You've earned every bit of this. He said. Would you have seen the danger hidden in that toast? Clara laughs freely, her shoulders finally relaxed as she sips her drink. The world seems brighter, lighter. She doesn't notice Justine's assistant moving to the bar behind her. A small vial, a careful tilt of the hand, and a clear liquid slips silently into her glass. Trust. That fragile, precious thing. Trust was her greatest strength, and her greatest vulnerability. But then, someone was watching. The camera didn't lie. But cameras can't speak. Jacob, the head of surveillance unit in a security room, watches the screen. His brows knit together as he leans closer. Would anyone notice? Would anyone speak up before it was too late? She blinks, her vision blurring. Her laughter fades as a wave of dizziness overtakes her. Justine places a steadying hand on her arm. Hey, you okay? Maybe you need some air. Justine asked. Clara nods weakly, her words slurring as confusion sets in. Her body knew something was wrong. Her mind struggled to understand. The music blurs into a distant hum as Clara's world begins to tilt. Justine leads her through the crowd, his grip firm, his smile still kind. Would you have trusted him? Back in the security room, Jacob rewinds the footage, eyes narrowing as he watches the assistant again. He taps his fingers on the desk, conflicted. A moment of hesitation, a choice yet to be made. But would they speak up? Would you? Kindness can turn to betrayal in the blink of an eye. Clara's glass, now empty, as the camera lingers on the shadows Justine and his assistant leave behind. And trust. Trust can become the sharpest weapon of all. What would you do if you saw something that didn't feel right? Have you ever ignored a bad feeling, only to regret it later? The aftermath of a betrayal. By morning, soft light filters through the curtains, casting shadows across the room. Clara sits on her bed, her arms wrapped tightly around her knees. Her eyes are vacant, lost in a place far beyond the present. Silence presses heavily into the air. The night was over, but the nightmare had just begun. Her hands tremble as she reaches for her phone. Her thumb hovers over the screen, but she sets it down without dialing. A breath shudders from her lips, shallow and strained. Why didn't she call for help? Why didn't she tell someone? Because trauma doesn't speak in words, it screams in silence. Clara drifts through her apartment. Dishes pile up in the sink. Clothes lie in disarray. She picks up a framed photo of her family, stares at it for a moment, then places it face down. Her movements? Slow and burdened. Shame whispers lies into your heart. Justine's words echo in her mind, smooth, dismissive, we were just having fun. She grips the kitchen counter, her knuckles white as tears fill her eyes. It was your fault, shame tells her. You shouldn't have trusted him. She stands before a mirror. Her reflection stares back, fractured, distorted. She averts her eyes, unable to confront herself. Grooming isn't just about control. It's about rewriting reality. Clara's phone buzzes with unread messages. Invitations from friends go unanswered. She pulls the blinds shut, withdrawing from the world that once brought her joy. Why couldn't she just move on? Because her mind was trapped, caught in the cycle of trauma bonding. A message from Justine appears on her screen. Hope you're feeling better. Let's talk soon. Clara stares at it, her breath catching as her fingers tighten around the phone. The very person who caused her pain. Now her only source of reassurance. Jacob sits in a dim security room, the glow of a screen illuminating his thoughtful face. He rewinds the footage of that night, watching the vial tip into Clara's drink. His brows knit with concern. A memory flickers in his mind, Clara's laugh from years ago. Jacob had known Clara once. Her laughter was contagious, her spirit bright. Now her light was dimmed. And Jacob noticed. How do you help someone suffering in silence? His fingers tap restlessly on the desk as he pieces together the fragments of that night. A bustling street. Clara walks through the crowd, her eyes unfocused. The world around her feels distant, too bright, too loud. A couple laughs nearby. Clara flinches. A sudden noise, a car horn, sends her heart racing. Her fists clench as her pace quickens. Her breath comes shallow and quick. Trauma changes the way you see the world. When she got home, Clara locks the door behind her, pressing her back against it. Her chest rises and falls as she fights for calmness. Even when the real danger is gone, the fear remains. But someone was watching on the 2nd of July, but the footage wasn't so comprehensive. And Jacob, head of the team, was left with the quest to figure out what had really happened. What would you do if you saw someone breaking under the weight of silence? Jacob watches the footage again, Clara's drink being spiked. His jaw tightens. He picks up his phone, indecision flickering in his eyes. Would he break the silence? Even when he wasn't too sure? By Monday, the hum of equipment fills the room. Multiple screens glow in the darkness, flickering with black and white footage of the club. Jacob sits alone, leaning forward, his eyes fixed on the same scene. The drink. The hand. The vial. The footage freezes. A man in a sharp suit, Justine's personal assistant, hovers beside Clara. The drink in her hand ripples as a clear liquid is poured in. Jacob's eyes narrow. His finger rewinds, and he watches it again, frame by frame. There it was. Proof. Jacob exhales, his fingers tapping the desk. He leans back, the weight of the discovery pressing on his chest. But was it enough? His phone screen glows. Social media pictures flash by, images of Clara before. A bright smile. A spark in her eyes. He scrolls further. Recent pictures show a different Clara. Her smile is stiff, her eyes tired. He remembered the girl who lit up every room she walked into. Now, her light was fading. The latest photo lingers. Clara's smile is there, but it's painted on. The emptiness beneath is impossible to ignore. And he couldn't shake the feeling that she needed help. Jacob finds Clara in a cafe sitting alone, stirring her coffee, lost in her thoughts. The world moves around her, but she remains still. Jacob watches from a distance, hesitant. He takes a breath and steps forward, his shadow falling over her table. How do you ask someone about a nightmare they've never spoken of? Her eyes lift. She sees him. Recognition sparks, but her guard rises instantly. Her heart quickened. The walls she built around herself grew higher. Jacob's voice cuts the silence. His words are measured and careful. Do you remember being at the club on July 2nd? Clara's spoon stills. Her fingers tighten. A flicker of fear flashes across her face. Memories rushed in. The noise. The lights. The dizziness. The fear. She wasn't ready for the question. She wasn't ready for the truth. Her voice, soft but defensive. Why are you asking? Jacob had watched the footage. He had seen everything. Now, he needed answers. His voice, low and steady. I saw something. Someone put something in your drink. The air thickened. Her breath caught. Her mind raced. Fear and shame wrapped around her like chains. Why didn't she feel relief? Because admitting the truth meant confronting the lie. Her voice, trembling. You're wrong. I was just drunk. A lie whispered to protect herself. Clara pulls away. She leaves the table, her shoulders hunched, retreating back into her silence. Jacob watches her go, his heart heavy but his mind set. He knew the truth. His phone rests in his hand. He scrolls through contacts, names blurring as his determination sharpens. But knowing isn't enough. Truth alone cannot break chains. A call connects. His voice is tense. The line crackles with the weight of his demand. Would the footage be released? Or buried beneath power and reputation? Alternate with footage of Clara's drink being spiked. The manager's voice is cautious, guarded. We can't release footage. It's private property, said the manager. Privacy. A shield for secrets. A wall against justice. Jacob's voice, sharp and unrelenting. This isn't about privacy. This is about a crime. But truth and justice rarely stand tall when reputation is at stake. The manager's tone darkens. If this goes public, it'll ruin us. Think carefully. The truth hung precariously, caught between silence and exposure. Jacob's hand tightens around the phone. His eyes burn with resolve. Would he fight the darkness? Or would he let it win? Clara alone in her apartment. Her phone lights up, a message from Justine. 2 words, thinking of you. Her finger hovers over it before she deletes it. The screen fades to black. Each silence she kept grew heavier than the last. Jacob held the proof. Clara carried the pain. But would justice have the courage to speak? What would you do if the truth was hidden behind locked doors? Would you fight to open them? Stay tuned for episode 2, where shadows deepen and the cost of justice becomes clear.